Welcome to Ex Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of Ex Machina. We got a full house tonight. We got Robbie Rip Rains hailing from South Crackalaki. We got Steve Wildman Monrotis hailing from across town, and Carrie Pocket Doc Davis looking rather dashing in that Walt Longmire hat of his. And boys, I am damn glad to have everybody in the house. This makes my day. How you guys doing?
Wyatt.
Oh, I am doing awesome.
Steve, you messed it up.
I couldn't hear him.
Got to say it again, Doc. We didn't get to
Wyatt, I am rolling.
There you go. Yeah, there's just enough of a lag. We talk over each other sometimes.
Sometimes. Yep. Boys, we've been talking about doing this show for a bit, and it's something that's kind of been near and dear to my heart, and it's something I've wanted to share with folks, and we've kind of touched on this subject a little bit in a few episodes past, but we've never really gone into the detail that I would wanted to hit. And folks, we're not pointing anything out. This isn't anything political. This is just a shit hits the fan situation. I mean, it can happen. In 1987, we lost power at my house for over 2 weeks because of an ice storm that took out transformers and power lines. So we were living like pioneers for 2 weeks. Fortunately, my dad survived the Great Depression, and it didn't faze him a bit. And we burned wood for heat anyway, so we just shrugged and went on. But it affected a lot of folks a lot worse. And this stuff that we're going to talk about tonight can prepare you for a lot of things, from the zombie apocalypse to like the time that tornadoes took out a big chunk of Joplin, Missouri, and Battlefield. I lived in Battlefield when that happened. There are a lot of just natural disasters that what we're going to talk about tonight can prepare you for. But we know lean times are probably ahead. No matter what happens in the not so distant future, there's probably going to be some lean times ahead for a lot of folks, because everybody knows that dollar doesn't go as far as it did at the grocery store or at the gas pump. And if it wouldn't take but one major hiccup, and we're all back in the Great Depression in a very short amount of time. The other night we talked about making pemmican, and that's one food item I would definitely learn to make, because it's great. It stores forever and it doesn't need to be refrigerated. But tonight we're going to be talking about what we call EDC, or everyday carry bags. We'll also touch on Bugout bags, but that's a whole different animal. But right now, EDCs is basically just the tools you would have on hand at any given moment. And the first thing I want to mention about an EDC bag is the bag itself. This is a little 511 bag, and it's a great little bag. It's got a spot for a water bottle, and I can hook flashlights on it, and it's got MOLLE tabs. And you'll notice on some of the MOLLE tabs, I've got a very familiar looking first aid kit, as well as the scallywag blade. And if you look on the other side, under the MOLLE tab right there, you'll see another one tucked in. That's my little what is that? The little jack, or the
mini jack?
Yeah, the mini jack. I was going to say little jack, but that's just a great little bag, and it wasn't all that expensive. And you don't have to buy anything name brand or expensive. What you want to buy is something that's comfortable to carry. And that one's pretty comfortable. I can just carry it like a shoulder bag, and it holds pretty much everything I need if I needed something immediately on hand. And I'll just kind of throw it around, let them tell you about what bags they carry as well. And again, it doesn't have to be expensive. It just has to be functional. Robbie, what do you carry?
All right, my little EDC bag. Let me get my microphone out of the way so I don't. It's just one of the little. It's got the strap that goes across the front of your chest. Of course, got my gunner's mate on the front of that. Got my wedge war club on the side, and I can reach over my shoulder and grab it. Got my gloves on a little carabiner, which also got the carabiner. Then another one of them little familiar things on the other side. Wonder where I got that from. I know I got it. you want one of these. He's nice, but I know a guy.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'll give you his info. I got a guy.
Yep. You probably know the same guy I know, right, Steve?
Yeah.
Like DA said with his, it's got a bunch of MOLLE tabs on it. I've got a couple of extra Grimlocks down here for whatever reason.
And you can buy a little bag like this for like $6 on Amazon. That's just loaded with Grimlocks and MOLLE clips.
Another little bag for spare ammo, spare magazines, clips, whatever I need to put in there. I can put in there. It's got MOLLE tabs on the front of it too. Then it's got 1, 2, 3, 4 more zipper containers, plus another spot on the back where you can put your water bottle or a Camelback or anything like that you want to. And it's got the things you can run your bite valve to for your Camelback. So, and again, I think I paid $45 for this. It's a Yukon Outfitters. I got it at Bucky's. And that's my little small one that I did. That just.
Steve, what do you carry? What's your little grab and go easy everyday bag?
What I've got is it's another 511 bag, but it's basically like it's set up like a small rucksack. I think it's like if I remember correctly, I think it's like a 15 or 16-inch tall backpack basically, and it's got MOLLE tabs on all 3 sides, and on one side I've got a Dark Angel spear kit mounted on there because the kits all come with those malice clips, so you can just clip them down easy. And I've got a CPR kit in there that's got a mask valve, in case I do need to do CPR, even though, like nowadays, the compressions are the big part of it. It's so important anyway. I've got an ouch pouch in there, another Dark Angel medical for just your small little things. And then, because of my background being strictly, medical, I've got some needle drivers, suture material, stuff like that. A lot of medical treatment kind of stuff.
Again,
we had a question from the chat about MOLLE tabs. MOLLE, MOLLE. It's a military acronym for a cargo clipping system. I don't have a bag to show anybody.
Let me see if I can get to the MOLLE.
What is it? What is it? MOLLE modular.
I don't remember
something.
It's an attachment that goes with a PAL system. MOLLE, MOLLE, is a attachment system that goes into the PAL's webbing on particular gear. But it's used. The name is used interchangeably between webbing and pouches and things like that.
Yep. A lot.
If you ever see a bag with all those little parallel loops on it, that's the PAL system, or MOLLE as we're talking about it. It's just it's kind of a standard way to attach it.
It stands for modular lightweight load carrying equipment.
Yeah, all these little tabs, like these little nylon tabs are shown here, those are MOLLE tabs. And like, if you look at if you can see it, if you look at the back of this, these little tabs right here, they've all got all these things that can attach to MOLLE gear. Have these little tabs that they're long, about most of them about that long, and you interloop or interweave them in between these tabs, and they tighten themselves down, and it makes it really, really hard for them to get knocked off, fall off, or anything like that.
At the same time, you could still pop those clips and yank it straight off.
Yeah, but they're not going to just come off walking through the woods like most stuff are. But you can still get them off quickly if you need to.
Yeah.
I didn't know we were doing show and tell. I went upstairs and got a couple of my bags.
There you go.
Of course, we're going to do show and tell, Doc.
No, I should have thought better.
You should have done thunk better, Doc.
I know it.
So, what's your preferred bag, Doc?
It honestly, I have 2 that I carry around. My literal everyday carry is a Vertex sock pee bag. So it's got an area up here for your phone. In the second pocket here, I've got basically I got a phone charger cord in there right now. I got a full blowout kit in here, a cigarette lighter with some duct tape wrapped around it, some fire starting supplies, and then I got 2 extra mags in there, and then I've got my concealed carry piece, a zipper pocket, another zipper pocket with the mini jack, and no, actually that's my sock P dagger. So I got my sock P dagger and a Surefire flashlight in there.
Well, we don't necessarily have to detail everything in the bag. I'm just more looking for the bag itself right now. And as we go along, we'll start talking about what we
as
carry.
far as components, and then this other one is just a bag that I designed years ago that'll carry a pretty good loadout in here, along with a water bladder and everything like Robbie's got. So, and it's got a med kit pouch on the bottom, which is pretty slick.
Yeah, you ask any 5 guys what their everyday carry bag is, you're going to get 5 different answers. The real question you need to ask if you're going to make an EDC bag is what is comfortable for you to carry. Do you prefer to have something with 2 straps? Do you like a single body strap? Do you want something that attaches to a belt? Do you want something that you can just grab and carry with the handles? It's up to individual preference because you're going to be the one carrying it and you're going to be the one that needs it.
Yeah, I mean, 2 strap it, sling bag, messenger bag. Your messenger bags are great because you can get all different sizes of those, and you can carry a pretty wide loadout in there. I mean, you can even go, the Indiana Jones European satchel, man purse, whatever.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, my EDC bag is the contents of it are designed to keep me fighting and get me home to get to my good stuff, because you can't carry everything around with you. It's just not enough room.
It needs to be portable, so it's not slowing you down. It's got to be something that you're willing to carry with you every day, or it doesn't serve any purpose. If stuff goes south and your EDC bag is sitting at home because it's too heavy to carry around, it's not any use to you. And then you got to make sure that the stuff that's in there is something you know how to use too. I mean, It's very easy to go to Bass Pro and deck yourself out all urban commando, but if you don't know how to use the crap you've got in the bag, what's the point in lugging it?
Well, if a situation goes bad and people are turning on one another, walking around dressed like the urban commando is going to get you noticed. My advice: be a gray man. Just don't stand out. If you're truly trying to get out of a situation like that, the last thing you want to do is call attention to yourself. So that's why I rarely wear camouflage, unless I'm going to be out in the woods hunting. I generally don't wear camouflage, and I wear a lot of blacks and grays.
Yeah, I mean, I wear t-shirt and boots and Wranglers.
Yep, I usually have my desert tan boots on, blue jeans, t-shirt, and a ball cap.
One of the first components of the bag that I want to discuss, I feel it is probably the most important. It is important. It's very important for you to have some way to defend yourself, but the most important is how to patch yourself up or someone else if things get bad. So to me, the most important thing in that kit is a med kit. I swear by Dark Angel kits and will till the day I die. But I'm telling you, if you can't afford one of those, anything is better than nothing. Steve works in a clinical environment where he treats people every day. Doc was a battlefield medic. These are 2 different points of view, and I really want you guys to pay attention to the input of both of them, because it's a whole different animal treating a wound in a clinical environment than it is treating it out in the woods. Doc, would you like to break down a kit and show us first, and then we'll turn it over to Steve?
Sure, and the good thing is, Steve and I both can relate as well, because not only being pre-hospital, I've worked in hospital for a lot of years. And so we get, and Steve will agree with this, I think we get really spoiled in the hospital because we have We have everything right there. And this is another thing about EDC you got to think about EDC, everyday carry. This is just your, as DA kind of put it, as your get home kit. You know what I mean? And this is enough just to keep you going, keep you alive. Now the kit I had closest to hand is the spear kit that we have here. But at a bare minimum, if you can have in your kit what I call the top 5 items, and I'll start out with it, and we're going to go with bleeding control first, right? So stop the bleeding, start to breathe, and treat for shock. So one of the top 5 items is a proven tourniquet. This is a CAT Gen 7. This is not a counterfeit. If you order from us, we're going to give you a coupon code. Dark Angel Medical. We are direct distributors with North American Rescue, who designed, and actually they had this made because it was designed by a Special Forces medic, 2 of them years and years ago. But I've got a tourniquet in here, so you want to have at least one. At least one. If you can have more than one tourniquet on you, that's great, because it may take more than one tourniquet to stop a bleed. One tourniquet may not be enough.
Tourniquets are like flashlights, folks. Just remember the rule: 2 is 1 and 1 is none.
Yeah, absolutely. So on my person at any one given time, I'm going to have at least 2 tourniquets. All right. So the top 5 items. So we're going to make tourniquets. We're going to talk about gloves. So if you want to have gloves in your kit, your gloves keep you safe from cooties, right? So they keep you safe from cooties. I don't want anybody.
I'm going to bother gloving up.
Right. If it was one of you 2 knuckleheads, I wouldn't even really worry about it. But yeah, gloves, if you're touching a stranger, make sure you have some good nitrile exam gloves on. And there's a big difference there too, is having your exam grade gloves versus medical grade gloves. Don't go to Home Depot and get your nitrile gloves from there. You can get nitrile gloves from Home Depot or Lowe's, but those are contractor grade gloves. So they're made to different specifications, different tolerances. All right. And we're using nitrile gloves. So at least 1 pair of those. If you can put more in, cool. So tourniquets and gloves. And then we're going to look at hemostatic gauze. And this is a quick clot bleeding control dressing. This is 12 feet. That's the minimum recommended length for a moderate to severe bleed to stop a bleed pretty quickly. And then we're going to be looking at a compression bandage. So I have a compression bandage right here. So I've got tourniquets, gloves, hemostatics, pressure bandages. Last thing, so we stopped the bleed. Now we got to start the breathing. I've got a pair of hyphen vent chest seals, vented chest seals in here as well. Now, if you can throw some other stuff like some extra standard gauze, this is 12 feet of standard gauze, and a Mylar blanket just for keeping someone as normothermic as possible, keeping their body temperature as normal as possible, because if somebody loses blood, your body temperature is going to drop. And when your body temperature drops, you don't coagulate as well. And if you don't clot, then you continue to bleed. And that's just a vicious downward spiral that we won't even get into scientifically. But those are your top 5 items right there. So if you can carry, like DA said, anything's better than nothing. But if you can at least carry tourniquet, gloves, hemostatic agents, pressure bandages, and chest seals, then you've got a solid little kit on you. That's what comes in like our EDC kit and our ankle kit.
Hey, Doc.
Yes, sir.
I got a question for you to clarify for everybody. Yeah. Okay, let's say we've got a bad bleed. Let's say the bad bleed is just below the knee. Where do you tourniquet?
You're going to tourniquet probably about a hand width above the knee, because we've got two styles of tourniquet application. One is called the hasty tourniquet, or a lot of people have heard it called the high and tight. And so the hasty tourniquet is basically whenever I cannot identify where the source of the bleed's coming from. Then the other alternative is called the deliberate application, and that is when you tourniquet deliberately. You identify the bleed. You have time to identify the bleed, and you're going to tourniquet 2 to 3 inches above the wound. Now, if the joint's in that 2 to 3 inch mark, you're going to go above, and you're going to go above the joint. The thing with a knee is if you feel back behind, if everybody on the chat tonight, y'all feel back behind you're going to give some anatomy here. Feel back behind your knee there on your upper leg. there's going to be a ligament there that you're going to go back and forth on. So that's now all this area. There's going to be one on each side, and these are part of your hamstring muscles, all your thigh muscles. And if you tourniquet directly above the knee, you're going to be pressing down on those ligaments. And what can happen is that tourniquet can actually lose occlusion because that's a very tapered area. Whereas if you go like a hand width above the knee joint, that's a lot more meat to tourniquet on. And so it's going to give you probably a lot better occlusion on that artery, which is what we're shooting for, is arterial occlusion when we put that tourniquet on. So there you go.
Steve, what about from a clinical side?
Well, I mean, as far as carrying with, so I don't have as much of the pre-hospital background as Doc has. So I do carry a basic spear kit and then an ouch pouch for the smaller things. I do carry gloves around. That's kind of a given. It's like you said. If it's wet and it's not yours, leave it alone. Everybody's like, "Oh, I'll just wash my hands. I'll just wash my hands." You're going to potentially cut yourself. In addition to nitrile gloves, I do have a pair of like armored Kevlar gloves in my bag because if I'm going to be messing around like a car accident, it's going to be glass or whatever. I want something on top of my exam gloves that's not going to get cut with glass. Just because most of the stuff that I would potentially be doing, I want to be able to have a little finer control over what's going on. I'm not going to be sewing people up on the scene, but depending on how bad things are, it's nice to know that I could put some stitches in something if I had to, Doc made a very good point with when you're using the tourniquet. There's two types of bleeds you can get out in the field. The venous bleeds are those slow, obnoxious bleeds you can't ever get slowed down, and they're comes from your veins. Your veins are closer to the surface of your skin. The ones that everybody sees in the movies where things are squirting the walls and everything are the arterial bleeds, and the arteries are a little deeper, and so it takes a lot of force on that damn tourniquet to pinch off the arteries. You can pinch off the veins just by sitting on your foot. That's why when you stand up afterwards, everything tinkles and it's all angry or whatever. It takes some effort to get that artery pinched off. The instructor that I had before, that taught us how to put the Cat 7s on said, put it on until the blood, quits. And then, or in the case we're demonstrating each other, put it on until it hurts and then turn the windlass 2 more times. It's not going to be pleasant. If your patient is conscious, they're going to be screaming. And you may potentially, there's always a fine line between just simply stopping the bleeding and causing tissue loss. But, I would rather, me personally, lose a leg than lose my life. And, with modern vascular medicine, a lot of times they can do a lot more, than they used to be able to. They used to tell me when I was in Boy Scouts, when I was an Eagle Scout, you put a tourniquet on, you plan on losing that limb. Well, it's not necessarily the case anymore, but you still want to make sure you're getting out of that alive.
They used to teach us in the Army, if you applied a tourniquet to somebody, to take a marker and write the time on their forehead, so they would know what time the tourniquet was applied.
Yep, the tourniquets, at least the good ones like Doc sells, have a little tab on it. When you tuck in the windlass, there's a little Velcro thing that goes over the top of it, and it's a white tab for the date and time you put it on. I did learn the hard way that those do not, that regular ballpoint pen ink does not write on those where they're shit. So I keep a Sharpie in my kit. Yeah.
Hey, there's a question that I think this is kind of directed at both of you. Roxanne Delgado says, will it make a difference with knee replacement?
You muted, Doc.
Can't hear you, Doc. You muted.
Sorry, I was making a lot of racket with putting my kit back together, and I didn't want to interrupt what Steve was saying. No, a knee replacement is not going to make a hoot and hell difference, Roxanne, because you're going either above or below the joint when we put any kind of tourniquet on. So, no, artificial joints are not going to be a concern.
And there was a question specifically for you, Doc, in the chat a few back. If you scroll back a little bit,
was it from
Craig Schultz?
Yeah, he
Yeah,
already answered it.
I answered him.
Okay.
Yep.
Anyway, Steve, as far as clinical goes, what else would you add?
Well, I said in my particular kit, I do have, some suture material and some needle drivers. Have you ever seen somebody tie stitches on a movie? They got those little tweezers they're using. They call those a needle driver. When you're sewing somebody up with actual proper suture material, it's a curved needle, and it's not a straight needle like mom sews your socks up with. And so that tool helps you hold it, and then helps you tie your knots. Suture material is good for a year or something like that. Well, it doesn't, the date it expires, it's not bad. You don't have to throw it away, but it may just be a little bit weaker. Like I said, because I most of my work is in the clinical setting, and Dad was a retired dentist. I'm in a position that I can tie sutures, and if the world goes dark, the nurses and the paramedics will become the doctors, to a certain extent. And I do have some lidocaine in there. A couple of docs that gave me some vials of lidocaine, just because sewing somebody hurts, and nice to be able to numb it up a little bit instead of making a bite on a belt or something like that. I do also carry a styptic pen with me, just to kind of cut the bleeding on minor cuts. You can buy them in like the shaving section at your grocery store or whatever. Usually they're made of like aluminum sulfate. They will burn like a mother effer if you put it on something, but the bleeding will stop almost immediately. And so it's nice for those little annoying bleeds that just get blood all over the place.
My barber uses those anytime. Like if I get my head shaved, and he nicks me, he just hits it with a styptic, like, oh God.
Yep.
Oh yeah.
A couple of questions.
It'll burn
One
the high
directly
heaven.
for you, Steve. Casey Calloway wants to know, what about in an extended circumstance if you can't get to a hospital right away?
Well, that's part of the reason that kit's got that much stuff in it. They even have these antibiotic kits that you can actually get online that has, doses of some of the more common drugs. It's real tempting to buy those things, but they're very expensive. I think you get a total like 10 doses of antibiotics. I think it's 2 doses each of 5 different antibiotics, and they're ridiculously priced. And truthfully, unless you have the knowledge to know which antibiotics are appropriate, you're wasting your money. It's just
which company is
the
that,
point.
Steve? Which company is that? Jace?
Maybe.
I
I know
got
the kits are like $300.
I got one from Jace Medical. It was $260, and if it's FSA and HSA eligible, and they also have a flip chart in there with with indications, contraindications, and dosages and duration of courses of antibiotics. So there's a big,
sweet.
yeah. So so for somebody who maybe is like, hey, I don't have access to a doctor, or like you said, the world goes dark. You can say, okay, well, I've had bloody diarrhea for 3 days. Maybe
Right.
maybe it has something to do with that roadkill I ate. And there's
Right.
So there's your dosage chart for Cipro and things like that. And I got Cipro and Flagyl in there, which is actually kind of a good thing. But there is kind of an instruction manual in there. That's just kind of the same thing I tell people about.
Good.
Unless you know how to do wound closure, be very cautious, because somebody asked about cuts versus punctures, and I know you'll mirror this sentiment too. Copious irrigation.
Mm-hmm.
Copious irrigation.
Yeah.
That means a lot of irrigation to get the fluid out. If you're going to close anything up, or if it's a puncture wound, wash it out with lots and lots and lots of good, clean water. If you can boil it, if you have, preferably, before you wash the wound out.
Right.
Jake, yeah,
Oh,
we'll
and
definitely be praying for your wife.
if the initial trauma doesn't kill you, infection will after the fact.
Absolutely.
And it doesn't take much to get pretty septic.
No.
And it's nasty stuff. But yeah, you're right. One of the things we do in the clinical setting is we irrigate like ridiculously with saline, sterile saline, and then depending on what created the puncture, we'll either clean it up with chlorhexidine, which is like surgical soap, or we'll use iodine if it's for like an animal bite or something like that, and that kind of makes it less likely you're going to get an infection after the fact.
Catherine McSwain says cayenne pepper on a wound will stop bleeding. Internal use is helpful as well, and of course, yarrow is another good herb considering it's styptic.
I'll do that too.
One thing I always used to keep in my bag was meat tenderizer.
Yeah,
It'll stop a bleed, but it hurts.
I've heard that too.
I used to keep that on hand all the time. I don't do it so much anymore because I done learned me a better way to do it. But you know, if you've got nothing else and you've got some food supplies nearby, throw some meat tenderizer on that sucker and it'll at least slow it down. It'll clot it.
Oh, and baking soda is another good thing to have in some of these kits too. Baking soda has this capacity to absorb other things, and it can help prevent infection. If you ever get like a venomous spider bite, it does a good job of drawing out and containing some of the venom. You tend to get less tissue damage from it. It's a good thing to have around. It doesn't do much to stop bleeding, but anything venomous or just even chemical wise, it'll help kind of absorb a lot of that crap, and it's cheap.
Again, folks, I've got at least 2 Dark Angel medical kits on me if I step out the door of my house. I've got a couple in the vehicle actually, but the thing is get a kit, learn how to use it. I highly recommend Dark Angel kits, but if that's not in your budget, because Doc's kits are high quality, but you're going to pay for the quality, and you can make payments through what is it? Sezzle.
Yeah, and they're HSA, FSA eligible too.
Plus, if anything you buy at Walmart or Amazon is not going to have the kit for life guarantee. You save a life with it, Doc will restock that kit. So bear in mind, you're always going to hear me singing the praises of Dark Angel because I carried one as an on-duty officer for a long time, and I still carry one. But most importantly is to have something. Anything is better than nothing, and don't forget 2 is 1 and 1 is none. If you're going to get a tourniquet, get a couple of them at least.
Amen.
I think. What do you guys think next? You want to talk about personal defense?
Whatever.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Individuals may vary. Some people don't believe in carrying a firearm, and in some states it's prohibited. I'm fortunate enough to live in a constitutional carry state. Plus, I'm a retired cop, so I wasn't too worried about that. But if you're 21 years old and not a felon, you can conceal carry in the state of Missouri. So, me carrying laws here aren't really in the way, but in some places, I know a lot of states are a little more rigid, like straight across the border into Illinois. Their laws are very different than Missouri's when it comes to carrying firearms. If you don't feel like you should carry one, that's a personal choice, but you should carry something to defend yourself. And I generally carry at least 1 handgun, sometimes 2. When I was on duty, I always had 2 on me, sometimes 3. But I recommend carrying a backup. One of the things I always make sure I've got in my bag is at least another 50 rounds of ammo other than what I have on my belt.
Yeah.
I generally, if I carry with a backup, I carry my Glock 17 with a Glock 26 backup because the Glock 17 mags will smack right into that 26 and it'll keep right on pewing.
Yep.
I usually have at least 2 to 3 magazines on me and another 2 to 3 in my bag. What do you guys usually carry? What's your daily carry?
I don't carry as
what I have to carry as far as my duty weapon, but if I'm off, I carry my backup Glock 42 that the department issued, and sometimes I carry my dagger 9mm. Sometimes I carry my 5.7. Soon to be carrying my 45. So I'd keep my options open. But I've usually always got 2 as well.
Yeah, my EDC is a Glock 26, just because it's more portable, easier to conceal, and
It's
the
known as
holster
the
I've
baby
got
Glock.
has
It's
the
known as the
baby Glock. Yeah,
folks. It's easy to conceal.
yeah, it'll hold 10 rounds plus 1 under the hammer, and it's I carry 2 extra magazines on it. The holster I have has slots for 2. Um, my thought on the whole thing, because I'm not a trained soldier, trained law enforcement, if I've got to reload more than twice, I'm probably screwed anyway. I just my tactical expertise isn't as extensive as some other people that are a little more comfortable. I don't intend to be a victim, but if things go south, I'm going to be more valuable as a healer than I won't be one of the hunters. I'll be a gatherer and a healer. And that's know your strengths and work to them. And any handgun, basically, as the military says, your sidearm is designed to get you to your long gun. You're not going to be fending off the zombie hordes with a baby Glock. What about you, Doc? What is your EDC?
Okay, I'll address that. Phyllis asked a question earlier and just said, "Hey, guys, answer my question." So, what about people allergic to bees and wasps if there are no EpiPens? Sad fact: if they have anaphylaxis, they're going to die. And that's the natural order of things. The best thing you can do, I mean, if people are that grossly reactive to it, because some people can get tagged with one fire ant and they're in full-blown anaphylaxis with their airway swelling shut, and no amount of Benadryl or Pepcid chewables or anything like that is going to help. So if you have to carry an EpiPen because you have full-blown anaphylaxis that shuts your airway down, if there's no EpiPen around, the outcome is going to be less than optimal. So
anaphylaxis happens in seconds to minutes.
Yeah,
and an oral medication like Benadryl or Pepcid, you're looking at a minimum of 15 to 20 minutes before it starts working.
Even if you put it under your tongue.
My recommendation is if you do come in contact with something you're allergic to, and there's a concern there could be a pretty severe reaction, pray it's not anaphylaxis. Benadryl and Pepcid, carry them both. There are 2 types of histamine, and each of those 2 drugs work on a different type, so it gives you good coverage if you've got them both. And chew them if you have to.
Yeah,
it's going to taste like absolute shit, but it'll get to your system faster if you chew it.
If you chew it and put it and keep it in your mouth like a chew or like an under your tongue nitro, people that take nitroglycerin, it gets into the circulation so much faster. Okay, so what do I carry on a daily basis? I carry a SIG P365. Basically, mine started out as the standard model, and what I did, I put a micro comp and a red dot on it, and I've got a XL grip module that I can run 17 round mags on. So I'm running 17+1 with 124 grain Spear Gold Dot plus P, and carry 2 extra 17 round mags. And in my pocket, I have what I call my Noisy Cricket, which is my North American Arms 22 Magnum Ranger 2 with the 1.6 inch barrel and 2 speed loaders.
A belly gun.
Yeah, so I got 2 speed loaders for that as well that I run in my left hand pocket. So carry quite a bit with me, but 2 is 1, 1 is none, just like tourniquets and fire starters and flashlights.
Folks, and a
He's
lot of people have asked
2 guns, 1 for each of you.
1 for each of you. A lot of people have asked me over the years what my opinion was of the best firearm to carry, and opinions vary. You got Glock guys, you got 1911 guys, you got people that are swelled by SIG. You ask 10 different gun guys, you're going to get a bunch of different opinions.
Right.
The thing is, the best gun for you to carry is the one you're familiar with and the one you know how to operate.
The one you're competent and confident with. So competency comes from training and going to the range more than once every 6 months or once a year, because you're going to go to the range once every 6 months and wonder why you still suck. Well, it's because you haven't trained. And so how do you suck less? Well, you train more, and you don't just train more, you train well. Consistent, solid training. Amateurs train till they get it right, and professionals train till they can't get it, till they don't get it wrong. So we want to make sure that we don't get it wrong.
Well, and know the limitations of that, whatever weapon you choose too. You know, Doc's noisy cricket, he's not going to be picking things at 75 yards.
No.
You know, it's not a long range weapon. As far as handguns, they say that most encounters of handguns take place in 7 yards or less. So, you know, you're not going to be shooting things 100 yards out with a handgun, or at least you ain't going to be hitting them if you do. You know, it's just
shooting out.
It's
How far with a handgun? Shooting how far with a handgun?
100 yards.
I can do 100-yard shots easy.
I know a guy that can smoke.
Well, that's true. Let me rephrase. With the right kind of gun, yes.
I can hit it with I can hit my 365, Steve, 3-inch barrel. I'm just saying, if you train with that, like what I'm saying, competency and confidence in your firearm and your chosen firearm. I mean, hell, Jerry Mikulik hit a balloon at 1,000 yards with a 2-inch snub-nosed pistol, but this dude's also insanely gifted. You know what I mean? And so the more you train, the better you're going to get. And so you're going to be able to make those good shots. What grocery store do you shop in there in Missouri, Steve, in Springfield?
Ideally, Hy-Vee. It's kind of a good selection of kind of your all-around grocery store.
Have you ever walked it from the front to the back and like measured it all?
No, but it's a distance.
How about you, DA or Robbie? Have y'all ever done that? Walked off the distance in the store?
Situational awareness, brother.
Yeah, walk
off the distance, but I'm always aware of my exits.
Man, walk your distance. And even like going to a hotel, when I'm going to hotels, sometimes these hallways are 50, 60, 75 yards long. You know what I mean?
We had that exact conversation in Greenville, though, when we was leaving your hotel that night, remember? We started counting, because we actually started counting our steps from your door to the elevator.
Let's look at, and I think what Steve's getting at is average person going the range, what, once every 3 months, once every 6 months, shooting 50 rounds here and there. Mm-hmm. They're not going to be able to make a long shot like that simply because of repetition. But if you're shooting what's more comfortable for you, I don't care if it's a 38 special or a 380, because somebody, I can't remember who it was in here, said they limp wrist, and y'all have all probably seen that on the range where people limp wrist with a semi-auto, and it causes that thing to malfunction. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, because it takes the inertia away from the slide. So use whatever you can manipulate. If you've got smaller wrist or weaker wrist, use whatever. If you want to do a semi-automatic, do whatever.
Smith & Wesson's taking care of that.
Or just get a revolver.
That little EZ 380.
Yeah, the EZ 380, and they've also got an EZ 9 now too. That's what my son bought his wife, my daughter-in-law. She's got Smith & Wesson EZ 9, and I mean, literally, I can like hold that thing and take my finger.
Yeah, and like Steve's. Okay, throw that next to Steve's Glock 26. That Glock 26. What's the barrel length on that, man? Is it like 3?
3 3/4.
Okay, so but what kind of ammo are you running through that defensive?
Right now, what I've got in it is the Hornady critical duty, the law enforcement loads.
That's good. Yeah, that's a good. That's some snappy stuff, ain't it?
It's got some punch to it. Yeah. You know, I learned to shoot on a Smith & Wesson 45-06, which is basically a glorified garbage disposal. If it's got a bullet and powder, it will shoot it. You don't worry about overpressure or whatever else. The damn thing is a jet engine, you know.
We were talking about that before the show, and you know, one of the first gun reviews I read on that gun, Steve, the dude he put rounds in, then put an empty casing in. The gun actually fed the empty casing.
Oh yeah. The thing is made out of, the whole thing is made out of stainless steel, and it weighs 46 ounces empty.
Jesus, that's like a Colts Dragoon, man.
36 ounces or 46 ounces empty. It's like carrying an engine block in your pants if you try to conceal it. Well, and then it's got a 5-inch barrel on top of that.
Doubles as a boat anchor.
When I went through the academy, the gun that we were issued was a Smith & Wesson 5906. That was a heavy gun, and I thought that when I went to Central PD, we were carrying the Beretta 92 FS, which is even heavier and bigger.
Yep, the 5906 is the 9mm version of my 45. It doubles as a bludgeon if you run out of ammo.
That is a chunk of iron, and the longest trigger pull of any gun I've ever shot in my entire life. Matter of fact, Rodney, who's in the chat, my old chief, had we been using Glocks at the time that this happened, Rodney probably would have capped the guy that we used to have so much trouble with. If he had not been using that 5906 for that long trigger pull, and Rodney knows exactly who in the situation I'm talking about. So that long trigger pull saved that guy's life that night. Not saying he deserved to have his life saved, but there was a reason for it. But
I remember
it's got about a quarter-inch of take up before you even get to the trigger.
yeah. It's like the Beretta, the 92, the M9. There was a security forces guy when that guy up at Fairchild Air Force Base went in the hospital and shot a couple of providers up there. The security forces guy shot him from 74 yards with double action. I don't know if he thumb cocked it back for a single action first shot, but I was like, dude, if that was a double action first round hit at 74 yards, that's freaking impressive as hell right there.
That's Wild Bill Hickok kind of shit.
Yeah, you ain't wrong.
I can remember, when we go qualify with those things, looking and watching that hammer come back going, good God, when's this hammer ever going to pow?
you could knit a freaking mitten or something,
It's kind of a beast. Like I said, it's why I went to the something smaller and lighter.
Yeah,
I think.
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, I think shooting guns like that are what made me so proficient with a Glock, because you get so used to that long hammer fall and that long trigger pull that shooting a Glock is just like, man, this is easy. I can do this with my eyes closed.
Do you work out your trigger flinch too? Because with that long pull, while you're waiting for the 15 yards for the hammer to finally get in position, when it does go off, it's a surprise to you.
So
so you get accustomed to you're not getting spooked by that report.
Well, folks, the point is there's 1,000,001 different kinds of firearms, but the best one to carry is the one you're familiar with, the one you train with, the one you're proficient with. So if you have trouble, if you can't hold an automatic and you stovepipe rounds all the time, I recommend a revolver. There are all kinds of revolvers out there, and never underestimate the power of a 22, especially a 22 Magnum. But every game animal on the face of North America has been brought down with a 22. I'm not saying how many rounds it took, but they've done it. And they've proved time and time again that a 22 is a man stopper. It just depends on where you hit them. And shot placement is key no matter what caliber you're carrying. So find something you're comfortable with. Find something you can afford that's in your budget and carry that. Train with it. Learn to use it properly. Learn to take it down and keep it maintained and clean. Because that, when something does go bad, that your life's going to be depending on that whatever you choose to carry. Now, what's that, Doc?
And I was going to say, I'm going to piggyback on that too. Even if you can't go to the range all the time, and I tell people this with tourniquets too, get you a practice tourniquet, not a real. Don't practice with your real world tourniquet, but do dry fire practice with your tourniquets and your chosen firearm, because both of them are cheap life insurance. And when you need to use them, you need to use them. It's just like a fire extinguisher. And so the more reps you get in with doing that trigger pull, get you some snap caps. Get you some little snap caps for dummy rounds for your dry fire practice, and you can set you some dry fire targets up and do that, and that'll give you the good reps on that trigger pull, get your side alignment, your trigger press, everything like that, and just do that consistently, and you'll be surprised when you go to the range the next time. You're like, huh, I really don't suck.
You can go on Amazon and buy a cheap kit that goes in your actual firearm.
Yep.
And has a little laser emitter in it, and you can dry fire that gun with that laser cartridge in there and at a target, and it will register your hits. In fact, I want to get one of those just to
I do too.
kind of train with on bad days.
Well, and
yeah, Greg
they put,
Greg House is absolutely right. If you carry, you need to be familiar with it as much as you are with your phone.
And to echo on what Greg said, that doesn't just mean by being familiar with it. That just doesn't mean, hey, I can go out and I can shoot this gun. Take the gun apart, clean it, put it back together. Take it apart, put it back together, whether it needs to be cleaned or not. Because if something malfunctions, and you need to know how that gun comes apart and goes back together. Because if you don't, and something malfunctions and you can't get it apart, to clear a malfunction or clear a jam, then like DA says, or Doc or Steve, whichever one said, it's a bludgeoning object at that point. It's no good to you as a firearm if you don't know how to clear a malfunction. Sometimes some malfunctions you have to take the gun apart to clear. That squib load happened in my Glock. We had to take it apart to clean it out.
Yeah. Well, and before I forget Doc's comment about the tourniquet, practicing that, practice on yourself too, because you got this kit to help other people, but you may be the victim.
Absolutely.
And practice with your non-dominant hand as well.
Absolutely.
You're not going to be so lucky necessarily that somebody's going to shoot you in your bad arm. And it's a very different sensation to try to do it with your non-dominant arm.
Now, trust me, if you go to one Doc's classes, you'll get plenty of practice on putting them on your dominant hand and your non-dominant hand.
And Robbie can tell you, I even use that analogy or that comparison in my class. Steve is like, I'm like, look, how many of y'all go to the range and shoot non-dominant? And if you do, great, because you get that practice in. But if you don't, whenever you need it, you're gonna have 10 of these. You know what I mean? So or 5 of these.
When I was with Greene County, I ran the qualifier with both hands.
As you should. And we had a class I used to teach up at SIG. I don't know if there's even on the calendar anymore, or the course offering anymore. It was called Alter Ego. And if you're a right-handed shooter, you take the course with all left-handed gear and do the entire 8-hour shooting day with your non-dominant hand. And man, it's something. Robbie kept trying to put the tourniquet around his neck in the class for some reason. There he is.
It was probably the one I was sitting beside.
Well, folks, again, the best weapon to carry is one you know how to use well. At the end of the day, what you have and what you train with and what you're familiar with is what you should carry. Don't listen to any gun expert out there, because a lot of them are recommending. Well, there was one channel I watched. He was recommending a firearm that was $3,500 bare with no accessories on it whatsoever. I'm like, yeah, I'm guessing you're probably getting a kickback for that. We're not getting a kickback from any manufacturer. And we've talked about a lot of different ones, and Doc has even worked for a significant company. But again, what you train with, what you're familiar with, and what you're comfortable with is the most important part about that. Don't be a brand snob, because a Kel-Tec could kill somebody just as dead as a Glock. Now, having said that, there is one thing I want to throw in about the throw back to the med kits. I completely forgot about it. There's something I always keep in my bag, and I completely forgot to throw that out there. I keep a tube of super glue and a roll of duct tape. Because both of those are extremely useful, and they don't necessarily apply to wounds. I've sealed cuts, pretty bad cuts with super glue before, and then throw some duct tape on it and go on my way. But if you have something break in your kit, you can throw some super glue on it, throw a piece of duct tape on both sides, and it'll patch it up long enough to get you home. There's lots of uses for duct tape and super glue, and those should not be overlooked. Steve Payton's high point all the way.
Well, and the thing with super glue, the surgical adhesive durable that they use to close surgical wounds, it is basically super glue with the burn taken out of it. As I will tell you, super glue will burn like a sumbitch when you put it on. Yep. That's what my gallbladder wounds were closed with. Take it or bless it. Dermabond doesn't hurt going on. Super glue will burn like a sumbitch, but
I can attest to that.
it
Yes,
will stop
does.
the bleed. It will stop the bleed.
But as far as weapons go, if you're in a place where you can't carry a firearm, you're not comfortable carrying a firearm, there are other things you can carry. There are knives, hatchets, walking sticks. You can carry something for self-defense because you have a right to come home safe. And if nothing else, take some self-defense classes. Um,
Yes.
pick up a class at your local Y on wrestling, or pick up class somewhere, join a karate studio. That little bit of self-defense, you would be amazed how many people, and I'm sure all three of these guys and Greg House in the house, who I know is a cop too, will tell you how many people just don't have a clue what they're doing in a fight. And if you've got a little bit of training, that's a tremendous edge.
Mm-hmm. Well, and don't go into a knife fight thinking you're going to come out unscathed either. If you're resorting to fighting with a knife, you're going to be bleeding. You've got to make sure the other dude bleeds more. But
if you're going into a knife fight, count on getting stabbed or cut. It's going to happen.
Yeah, knives terrify me.
Yeah, when I went to my
I'm a believer in taking a gun to a knife fight.
When I went and did my defensive tactics instructor training, and we went through SCID, which is spontaneous knife defense. You want to be scared and it be in a safe situation. They took us and put us in the red man suit and put us our back up against the wall, and then the other half of the class was standing in front of us. And the instructor, they of course had training knives, but he was like, "All right." And when he first called out, he's like, "All right, I want everybody to go 10%." And we're practicing our blocks and all this kind of stuff. Then he'll blow the whistle, and everybody's on the wall, stays with that, and everybody else moves down. And every time he blew the whistle, they upped it. So it went from 10% to 20%, 30, 40, 50, all the way up till you got to 100%. And even though you're in that red man suit and you're blocking and all this kind of stuff, and the person said it shows you that I don't care how good you are, you're going to get cut if somebody is coming at you with a knife. And you just have to understand that, like DA said, if somebody's coming at you with a knife, understand that it's not if you get cut, it's when you get cut and how you present it. And here's from an instructor, from a spontaneous knife defense instructor. If somebody's coming at you with a knife and you're going to offer them up something to cut, don't put your hands up like this. Doc, Steve, am I right? What are you offering them if you're trying to block this way?
Hell, I don't know.
Arteries.
Everything.
Oh yeah.
All your arteries.
This way.
Well, I don't want a knife through my hand either like that. So
that's why you do this. Keep them thumbs and them fingers in. Don't do this. If somebody's coming at you with a knife, don't do this, because like Doc said, you're going to get a knife through your hand. You're going to lose a finger. You're going to all these major arteries and stuff right there, like this.
Yep. You're gonna, and protect your trunk.
You're good.
All the important Uzi shit's in the trunk.
And Jeff Garrington, you said something about the 21-foot rule. That's like the Tooler drill. That's actually even been debunked, man. People can get you from a lot further out than 21 foot.
That's called the
reactionary
gap. Some people are
just faster than others.
Jeff, the reactionary gap is now 31 feet with an edged weapon, not 21.
Yeah, they changed it, man. It's been, because we were even doing that up at SIG, doing a use of force, and we were obviously using UTM ammo, and the guys would come up, and we were like, okay, let's do this 21-foot rule thing with folks, and they were coming at them with a practice knife and trying to get that gun drawn and everything. They would get on with a practice knife and work them over with it before they could even get a round out. It was very eye-opening when I did that.
Distance or obstacles are your friend if they're coming at you with a knife.
There were two of us that were instructors at my department, and we got together and figured out some training. That we were totally safe with this, because he would get 21 feet this way. We would have everybody standing in between him and I. So he was completely offline from me, but he was running towards me, and somebody completely separate from us, he would have the knife, and somebody completely separate from us would say, go. And as they say, go, I'm having to draw, aim, and get out here quicker than he can get to me. If I wasn't completely out here by the time he passed me or got within 5 to 10 feet of me, then I lost. And believe me, at 21 feet, I lost way more times than I won.
Yeah. And Ken just brought up some lateral movement also. It's doing your offline of attack movement, which is
move off the X. And that's or move on the X is what it's called. Instead of moving straight this way or straight that way like this, move up or move back, move over here, move over here. You know, mix it all in, moving on the X. You think about yourself standing in the middle of an X, and you've got all these different points of access that you can go to. So don't just stand there and get cemented in the ground.
And one thing that we can't be overstressed enough is in a situation that could turn violent, just getting away, just get out of the situation is probably the first thing that should be on your mind. If you can't, if you get backed into a fight, fight hard. Fight like the third monkey on the ramp at Noah's Ark and it's starting to rain. Be prepared to defend yourself. But if you can avoid it, that's why I was talking about being a gray man. Don't stand out, especially if people are looting. Don't stand out. Move away. Get out of the area. Don't unless it's your intention to confront somebody. Like if somebody's breaking into my house, you bet your ass I'm going to be confronting them. But if you can avoid the situation, avoid it, because
Amen.
The easiest way to survive a situation like that is not be in it.
Amen. Because I was working at the ER up whenever I was in whenever the Aurora shooting happened, right? And so one of the folks in there said, what would you have done? We know you carry a gun, yada yada yada. And I was like, well, first off, I wouldn't have been there at night with my kid, in that type of situation at midnight. But if it was like a special type of thing, I'm like, my first thing, I'd have been on top of my child and becoming one with the ground and getting to the nearest exit that I could in that situation. You mean you wouldn't have pulled your? I said, no. What am I going to do? What good am I going to do trying to engage somebody like that? Sometimes the best course of action is a really, really quick egress. One of my best buddies was a Team 7 dude in Afghanistan. He said, dude, do you know how many gunfights we ran away from? He said, we're traveling in like 4 to 8 guys in a small unit. He said, these dudes were all over us like stink on poop. He said, the name Custer mean anything to you? He said, so
yeah, unask the AO.
Yeah. Discretion is the better part of valor, man. And that's the way I look at it, man.
But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter if it's a firearm, a knife, a gun, a firearm, a knife, a walking stick, a club, a shillelagh, whatever you want to call it, whatever you're carrying, make sure you know how to use it and try to avoid contact if possible. Use it as a defensive tool. Make them back off and get yourself out of that situation, because really, especially in a knife or a gunfight, nobody really wins.
Well, and I don't know how it is in most states. Like here in Missouri, if you do the CCW course, 3/4 of the course is over the legality of using a handgun and trying to get yourself out of a situation. It's not like the movies where you fire one round and your target's disabled. The whole thing with a hand, you get on target, you empty it, and and as a last resort. It's just, it's not like the movies you hit them once and they go flying through a window.
Yeah, if I have to engage somebody, I'm going to engage until they are no longer a threat.
Right.
And you can't just, assume that there was somebody posted in one of the Bigfoot groups on YouTube, on Facebook, about carrying a bear spray instead of a firearm because it's more effective. I'm like, clearly you have never worked in law enforcement. I have had numerous occasions, and I can tell you the stuff we carried in law enforcement was far more powerful than bear spray. Bear spray is about 25,000 Scoville heat units. What we carried was made by Fox Labs for law enforcement only, was 5.3 million Scoville heat units. I've seen it eat the bottom out of a styrofoam cup. That stuff was incredibly hot. But I've also seen guys wipe their face and just keep coming. I sprayed a pit bull one night and didn't even phase it. I don't know if that dog was, on something or what, but it was coming after us, and I lit that dog up, and I did because I didn't want to shoot it, and it didn't break stride. So it doesn't necessarily. It's not a be all end all. There's a reason we call it a less lethal deterrent. It is not the be all end all. It's not like on TV, and I love it on TV when they show somebody getting tased and they pass out. Does not happen. As soon as you cut that taser off, they can get right up and be ready to fight. Taser does not knock somebody out. Pepper spray is not the be all end all.
No, I mean the Edison medicine is a good thing for sure. You know what I mean? But it will diffuse a situation temporarily.
Old Sparky does get people's attention.
Yeah.
But Greg, I've got a buddy I worked with at the department. His name's Shane. Shane, if you're listening tonight, love you, brother. When he had a cold, he would spray pepper spray into a plastic cup and just sit there and huff it to break up the sinuses. It didn't phase him other than clearing out his sinuses. Didn't phase that dude a bit. I'm pretty sure I could shoot that guy and he'd still beat me to death. I mean, he's a big bear of a dude and one of the strongest guys I know.
Good Lord.
He's just a beast. And in order for us to even carry pepper spray as a cop, we had to not only get hit with it to know what it felt like, but we also had to fight through it. We had to perform functions under the effects of pepper spray. We had to back up. It depends on the circumstance and the trainer. That's different each time. Sometimes you've got to run through like an obstacle. Sometimes you've got to fight off an attacker. Sometimes you've got to take somebody down, put them in handcuffs. But you've got to be able to function with that being on you and in your eyes. And I'm telling you right now, if my ass can do it, so can somebody else. I'm not the toughest guy on the planet. So pepper spray is not a be all end all. And if they're on something, they may not even know that you sprayed them.
Yeah. Steve Payton said that he said they make it hotter than 5.3 now.
Jesus.
Good
5.3
Lord.
was the worst I ever got hit with. And you know what? I don't want to do it again.
I don't know what we got hit with when I was in the military, but it was like somebody threw a flaming hot cheese pizza on my face. It felt wonderful. and it was in the middle of the summer. So it was a gift that just keeps on giving because your pores are
when you get in the shower later, you're like, oh,
they're wide open, man. You're like, oh God, again. Yeah.
Last time I got hit, I sat on my couch in my living room for like 2 hours with a box fan on my lap blowing on my face.
I got sprayed while me and my partner was fighting a guy one night because he had a hold of my partner and I went up behind him and grabbed him in a chokehold. And as I went to pull him back, we were kind of going uphill and it had been raining. It was slick. So as I pulled back on him, my partner started pushing forward and we all three fell. And I was on the bottom of the pile. And my partner just pulled out his pepper spray and started spraying the guy. And I was laying right under him. And so it got us both.
You got a snoot full of it too, huh?
We had a corporal that we used to refer to as the indoor fogger. If something kicked off, everybody was getting it. It didn't care whether you're in a uniform or what. Everybody was getting it.
Ken said they used to carry one called Freeze Plus P, which is a mix of OC and CS. Oh,
I've seen that.
Oh,
they use it in the Missouri Department of Corrections.
That's what I got hit with that night.
When I was on the riot team, we used to train with their riot team, their SWAT team. Yeah, I've been around that shit.
It don't burn as bad as the Fox, like DA's talking about, but it will mess you up because it's hot. I think that's only like, Ken, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's only like just slightly over 1 million Scoville heat units, which is still, but it's nothing like that Fox Labs. But then you got the CS part of it too, which it's just like turning a faucet on.
Yeah, we used to run a gas chamber at officer training school, and we had CS gas, and we just burn it over like a little camp stove, one capsule per 10 students, unless they were being jerks. Then it might be, titrate to effect. But, yeah, man, snot, tears, I mean, there was mucus coming out of every orifice, you know. I mean, they were snotting and blowing, and it was horrible. CS was nasty, and it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
See, even the
I could tell you
taser stuff is
some
bad.
stories about that.
Oh yeah,
You know, I was sitting. I was having a conversation with my sister Thanksgiving one year, and you know, it was one of those, you know, like right after one of those big stories where somebody got tased, and you know, it was one of those "Don't tase me, bro," you know, videos. And we're talking about it, and I made the comment. I said, I can't see how somebody would resist doing that. Like, I've never been tased, but you know, I can't see somebody fighting through that. Well, my brother, you know, is a police officer, and he was on duty that day, so he's in uniform, but he's between calls, and he's over there hanging out with us. And you know, my sister and I had, you know, split 3 bottles of wine by this point, and he took the cartridge off of his taser and he stuck it into my thigh and pulled the trigger. And so I got a little dry stun me. Million volts, or no, 100,000 volts, 100,000 volts,
50,000.
and I got just a half-second bite. Huh?
50,000.
Well, let's just say, you know, I've attended an Assembly of God church most of my adult life, and I never spoke in tongues until that moment. And for about a half second, I was fluent in Aramaic, and that was the half second of the worst pain I ever felt in my life. But you know, like you guys were saying, as soon as he pulled it away, it was gone.
Mhm.
And you know, and I only, you know, I got the half second treatment. You know, I would have been up and ready to fight right afterwards.
Yeah, look, Ken's right though. Tasers either works like it's amazing and works great, or it don't work at all. And that could be that they're just somebody who it doesn't affect, which very few people are like that. Could be your spread of your probes, you know, could be like if it's in the winter and they're wearing a really thick jacket or something, and you know, one probe hit low, another probe hit high on the jacket, and it's just kind of keeping it away from the skin. There's a lot of factors.
I was getting the Rob Riggle in the face. When he got the barb right in his face.
I lit a
That's a
guy
good
up one
spread.
time.
That's what we call a no square in taserees.
I lit a guy up one time. It was an inmate in the shower, and he charged me, and I popped.
And you
him.
charged him.
Yeah, one of them caught him above the left nipple, and the other one hit him in the head of his dick.
Oh, that's a good spread.
He was not interested in fighting anymore. Not in the slightest.
Dear sweet baby Jesus. Oh man.
Yeah, I've never seen a guy comply so fast in my life.
That just made me clench my legs together, man. Good night.
Yikes.
Mercy day.
You know, 50,000 volts to the Goomba have a pretty good effect on taking the fight out of you.
Yeah.
But you know, we could swap tasers and pepper spray stories for hours. Let's kind of steer this back in a
yeah, Roxanne just said off the rails choo choo.
Yeah. Here's something I keep in both. I've got actually 2 or 3 of these things, but I keep one in my daily bag. I keep one in my go bag, and I keep one in my car. Just a little emergency radio. Doesn't look like too terribly much until you start looking at it. It's got a solar charger, and has a built-in flashlight. Has a flashlight on this end. It's also got a hand crank where you can charge it by hand crank, and it'll charge your phone or any other electronic device. This thing is one of the handiest things I think I have ever bought. I use the shit out of this thing. You can charge your phone, a tablet, just about anything that you can plug into a USB cord. You can charge on this thing, and I can take this right now and probably get 2 or 3 charges to my phone out of it. It's got a pretty big storage capacity. But if you need light, if you need radio, it's got emergency weather radio as well as regular radio. If you need light, you can hand crank it, or you can just leave it out in the sun to hit that little solar collector. But this thing is worth its weight in gold. Y'all carry anything like that?
Yeah, it's only like 30. It was only like $30 on Amazon.
Yeah, it wasn't expensive.
I've got one of them in my Bugout bag for here at the house.
and you can put I think it's AA batteries in it. AAA. You can load this thing up with AAA batteries and use those. And when those are no longer viable, you can recharge it. Robbie's got a cell phone charger, solar charger. These things, you go to Harbor Freight, you can pick them up for about $20.
And the cool thing is, if you with it's doing the AAA batteries, I've got a set of the lithium energizers, which have a really, really long lifespan on them, and they don't corrode like a lead acid battery will. And I've got some rechargeable AAAs in there as well, so that you can use the solar charger on there.
That's a good idea. I need to replace those with rechargeables. I'll do that.
It was something I thought about. But yeah, it's a good little radio to have.
And it's even got like an emergency siren on it. So if you like fall and hurt yourself and you can't yell loud enough to get anybody's attention, this thing has an alarm on it. You kick that thing off and it's shrill and it's loud. I kicked it off one time in my living room and even the dog ran out of the room.
Yeah, but your dog's a wuss.
Yeah, that's true. He's not exactly the most the bravest and mightiest of dogs. He's a big chicken, but we love him. KC Calloway says, what about walkie-talkies? Those are good in some situations and not so good in others. Like in an urban environment, walkie-talkies, the range really drops out of the bottom of those because they're competing with so many other signals that are going around your area. The trick is finding a signal that's clear and a channel that you all agree to. But we use the walkie-talkies when we were out in Combs Ferry, and we took them actually every time we go out in the field now, we take them with us. But yeah, walkie-talkies are dang handy to have on hand, but just got to remember the only people that you're going to be able to talk to are the people on your frequency if they're in range.
Yeah. And like I said, they lose signal. It's a line of sight kind of thing. But in an urban environment, there's many obstacles to block that line of sight.
Greg House says he carries magnesium road flares. That's a good one to have, a good one to carry. Yeah, you can use them in an emergency or light a fire with one or signal flare or even making something get back that didn't want to get back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else would you guys recommend to keep in a bag?
I keep some different color light sticks in a bag. I've got a Viz 17 panel, which is a marker, a signal marker, and it's like a blaze orange on one side and almost like a hot pink magenta, whatever, on the other side, so that you can signal helicopters and a signal mirror. What is that, Robbie? I can't see that.
Basically, it's an e-bird.
Oh, the spot. Yeah.
I keep one of these around all the time. Fire starting kit. It's got basically magnesium fire starter. It's got stuff in there that I keep that'll keep it dry to use for fire starters. And I don't know if y'all have out there have considered these, but a good water filtration system.
Yes.
This is just a cheap one I keep on hand, but I recommend the Life Straws because they take up so little space. I've got my Life Straw over in my pack that I can't reach.
That's another good little thing to have. Just a little emergency fishing kit. Mm-hmm. Pretty much everything you need just to catch fish, just right there in that bag. Just a hand line one.
In my go bag, I've got a coil of rope and a coil of paracord.
Greg House made a good point to a Linzetic compass would be a wonderful thing to have.
Parachute cord, duct tape. Let's think of our cornerstones, guys. Fire, water, food, and shelter. So if you've got some emergency ration bars, anything like that, those high calorie, nutrient dense emergency ration bars. I've got a
few Cliff bars in mine.
Yeah.
And just type them out every once in a while.
Over the counter meds, anything like that. This is a heavy duty survival blanket, large survival and evasion. This is green on one side and silver on the other for reflective. It's 2.5 mils thick, and it's about that big, but it's It's from a company called Solkoa, Solkoa. It's here in Colorado Springs, and the large blanket. Let me see how big that sucker is. Blanket. This is the compact, but the large one is $15.95. It's in stock, and it is roughly 60 inches by 96 inches. So 60 that's 5 feet, and 96 is 8 feet. So it's 6 foot by 8 foot. So a couple of those, you could actually make you a ground pad or a bivy bag and an emergency shelter with those. So 15.
I've got a multi-tool on my day bag and my go bag.
Yes, KC Calloway says, "Are the filtration straws good?" Yes, they are. But because DA and I were talking about these, something I've learned, I've got a water filtration or purification system that I use when I go backcountry, so I don't have to pack water in. And I take a coffee filter and a rubber band, and I put it around my pre-filter before it goes into my filter. And what that coffee filter does is it filters out sediment, which can clog that thing up, because the way you use a life straw is you suck in the water and then you have to blow it to clear it out. But something that you could think about doing is actually rubber banding a coffee filter over the end of it so that it filters that stuff out, and it's just less chance of it getting clogged up. And this is a tool my buddy John gave me, that Leatherman MUT, which is a great little multi-tool.
Yeah, show you boys an interesting little tool I picked up, and I saw an advertisement for it, and wondered if it is as good as it says. But it comes in a little leather case like that.
Ooh.
Yep.
Little bushcraft tool. Those things are cool, man.
This little bushcraft tool is amazing.
And
you can put a panel through that and twist. You can core out sections of wood to make a what do they call that, some kind of torch?
Rocket stove.
Yeah, rocket stove. You can do a lot of things with this thing. It's great for when you make camp.
Now, and another thing, and I would recommend going to an Army Navy store and getting an actual good one, but something like this little e-tool, little entrenching tool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
This is a cheaper one because that's just what I got for right now. But you can go get these if you got an Army Navy store in your area. You can go get one for next to nothing. And those
one of the old military ones that fold in 3 sections and has its own little case.
That's pretty much what this is. This is just a little bit smaller than what the military version. I mean, you see how big that one is, but not very. I mean, that's probably what 2 inches smaller than a normal one, but it's small. It fits inside of my bag, and it'll do in a pinch. So
right,
because you never know when you're going to have to do something like that, dig a hole for something, or another thing. A lot of people don't carry stuff or a bottle of water because it's inconvenient, right? I don't want to carry a bottle of water. It's inconvenient.
That goes with me all over the place.
That right there is something that could save your life, because you're like, okay, well, I don't realize that I'm carrying a bottle of water.
Mm-hmm.
You take the top off, put the water in, screw the top back down, it locks it on, and then you can put that on your belt, and you've got a bottle of water on your belt, and you have no excuses for, oh, it's a bottle of water, and I don't feel like carrying it because it's not.
Yeah. And on top of that, there's a company called MicroPure, MICRO and PUR. You can get the water. It's Catadin or Catadin, however you pronounce it, but it's MicroPure, and they have water purification tablets, and they're about $12, and you can get them on Amazon. And so,
do you remember how crappy water tasted with those old iodine tablets?
Oh, the iodine was horrible. But the good thing, this micro pure
Tastes
doesn't
like
make
the inside of a Lister bag.
Oh, it did. It was bad, man. And this micro pure stuff doesn't make your water taste funky. I mean, it has a little bit of a taste, but it kills microorganisms, bacteria, protozoa, cysts, virus. So it is truly a purifier. And that's another thing to look out for is if you're looking at your water treatment stuff, is it a purifier or is it a filtration? Because sometimes the filtrations won't filter out the viruses and things like that. So make sure, because they're too small and the filter is not a small enough micron mesh. So make sure that you're looking at it. Purifier.
When it comes to water, when in doubt, boil it out.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And bleach, one drop per liter. 1 drop per liter. So you're talking about four drops a gallon. Will purify that water. Will treat your water. They over-treated ours in our water buffalo when we did a field exercise one time, and the whole unit, we had to cancel the exercise because the whole unit had diarrhea because the too much bleach will kill all the good flora in your gut. And so we were all pooping our brains out by like day 2, man. So it's not good.
Hey, Doc, this one's for you.
Oh boy.
You're going to do it, aren't you?
I was waiting. I'm just thankful Ken didn't say anything about, when I was talking about when you have to suck through the life straw. So I was waiting on some peanut gallery.
Embrace the suck.
Yes.
I'm
Yeah, man. Water, because the worst thing in the world would be to be in a bad situation like that and end up be in a survivable situation and end up dying from freaking dysentery because you pooped yourself literally to death.
At least I don't have to
dehydrate
worry,
fast.
At least I don't have to worry about getting lost in the weeds, Ken.
He'll come out of there riding a terrapin turtle. He'll be fine.
Hey, y'all, but I mean, remember, fire, water, food, and shelter, but don't make and run through familiarization exercises of this stuff. Make sure you know how to utilize it before the time happens, just like a med kit or a firearm, and get familiar with it. And if it's inexpensive, train with it and get you one that's expendable for training. Just like some of our stuff, we sell the practice tourniquets and the practice gauze and the wound packing simulators and stuff like that.
For those of you who
just like I've never heard of Robbie's stupid joke, Ken. Get used to it.
For those of you who never were in the military, specifically, I think it's more of an Army and the Marines thing, but I'm sure the Air Force did it as well. The Navy probably not so much, but there is one thing of my original issue that I have always made sure over the years I had 1 or 2 of them laying around. And those of you who've been there will know what I'm talking about, and that's the wubby.
Oh,
I was
absolutely.
about to say, I carry a whoopee in the back of my car.
Gotta have a wubby. Doc's grabbing his. Mine's over behind a green screen. I'd knock it down trying to get to it. If you don't know what a wubby is, it's a poncho liner. But it's like the personal security blanket. I mean, you would be amazed how well you can sleep under one of them things. Your wubby is your friend.
This is so warm and cozy.
If you ain't got a wubby, you should get one. You really should. My adopted son, Connor, he's been my youngest son, Noah's best friend since they were like real little. I basically watched Connor grow up. He calls me Pops all the time. But he was over at the house one day and I gave him one and his eyes just lit up because he's ex-Army too. He's like, oh my God, I didn't realize how much I missed these things.
I'm gonna tell you, I travel with mine.
Well, I never served, and when DA was talking his books about the guys were going on about the whoobies, I'm like, I need to get me a whoopee, and and of course I wanted it to be like basically like Army surplus, you bill spec, to get experience what it is, and I absolutely love the thing. My wife cannot stand it. She says she hates the texture, but I got that. I
That's
ran it through the washing machine, and oh, it's wonderful.
That's perfect for taking, like if you're watching TV and you just want something to wrap around you while you're watching TV, grab a whoopee. If you're going to a baseball game and you think it might be a little chilly, pack a whoopee. If you're sleeping out somewhere, you're camping, and it's going to be a little chilly that night, pack a whoopee.
I mean, and you think about it. If you have one of those whoobies and you had one of those large survival blankets, you could use that as a ground pad. Because you think about it, what do we lose heat to the ground through conduction, and if you've got that thing wrapped over you, then you're not losing heat to the air through convection. So you're going to maintain a lot better heat, and you can also, like I said, get a secondary one as a little shelter half to put over you. So like parachute cord, some parachute cord, some duct tape, and one of those things. You can have a survival system right there.
Well, if you've got a poncho liner, and some 550 cord, you can sleep dry and warm.
Absolutely, 100%. Yep.
And I like that stuff doesn't stick to them either, like leaf litter, dog hair.
Right.
I can cuddle with the thing and have the shepherd laid across my lap, and I'm not wearing half the shepherd on my blanket afterwards.
Right.
And
that's a true testament. The shepherd hair stick to it, because they should make industrial adhesive out of the same material that German shepherd hair is made out of. Ranger's been gone almost a year, y'all, and I'm still finding German shepherd hair in various places. And we're very clean households, but I'm still finding German shepherd hair.
Boys, I just had an idea. I'm going to look around and see if I can find a place that makes custom whoobies, and we'll do some wild hunt whoobies.
That'd be kind of cool. That'd be very cool.
I think that'd be pretty bad.
That would be awesome. That would be really cool.
Yeah, I would sleep in one. Yeah, it's definitely something to think about, because like everything we're talking about is not long term. This is just sustainment to get you to better your better products, your food and everything like that. So just keep your stuff. And that's another thing too. We tend to overpack. Think about this, the whole, like a med kit. Like I said, you can build a med kit with all the items I was just talking about, the top 5 items. That can be like 12 ounces. Ounces equal pounds, and pounds equal pain, especially if you're carrying this crap on your, especially if you're carrying that crap on your back, man. And you're gonna end up overpacking way too much. So fire, water, food, shelter, med, things like that. Maybe some land nav if you know how to use. And I would say this: we have become so technologically dependent. People have forgot the fine art of orienteering. And Steve was a Eagle Scout. Me and Robbie and DA have learned how to use a map and compass in one form or another. So have a map for your area. And if you have a map for your area, make sure, I'd like to have a topographical map to show the land terrain features, and make sure you have a compass that reads in the same grid pattern measurements that your map is laid out in.
And that applies for urban environments as well, especially if you don't know the back streets of your city.
Yeah.
Exactly. Ken says fire water.
Fire water. Yeah, I've got me a hip flask somewhere handy. Guarantee.
Medicinal.
We're talking, medicinal purposes.
It's
and
medicinal.
In worst case, if you got high enough proof, it makes a pretty good disinfectant.
Yep, absolutely.
It does.
Beats rubbing dirt
well,
in it.
And
the best.
Right.
Depending on the circumstances too, it could make a nice painkiller.
Or start a fire. But like Doc's saying, those are your 4 basic elements. And remember the rule of 3. You can go, 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, 3 weeks without food?
3 days without water, 3 weeks without food. Yeah. 3 minutes without air. Yeah. Yeah.
Rule of 3. Yeah. You got to cover those bases. And folks, what we're just describing tonight, what we've been talking about, is short-term emergency situation survival. When we start talking about long-term, those plans change. You've got to be much better prepared for a long-term survival situation. But what we've described tonight is get you through the emergency. After the emergency settles down, once you're clear it's a whole different animal looking at long-term survival. And honestly, I'm not even sure I'm really qualified to teach long-term survival. I would probably want to bring somebody on like Les Stroud if I could get a hold of him, or somebody of that caliber to talk long-term survival. Um, I've spent half my life backwooding it, but I've never had to just be dropped in the middle of somewhere and live for 2 weeks.
Right.
That's a different ball of wax than anything I've ever been exposed to.
And something we were talking about earlier, and I'd like to touch on it real quick, is and I know Robbie's big on this too, because we talked about this in the class that he came to in South Carolina, is situational awareness. Situational awareness is huge, man. If you're not situationally aware, you're going to be an organic resupply point, right? I mean, if you're not situationally aware, and how many people will y'all see out there every day that are not situationally aware? That's an integral part to survival. I think some people don't have any survival instinct anymore.
Most people are walking around with their nose in their cell phone.
Right.
I mean, even I see people with their nose in their cell phone driving down the street all the time.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, me and my best friend John came out of a store up the Boulder area one night. We were in a grocery store, went to pick some stuff up. We're like, hey, we're gonna fix whatever the next day. And so I said, it's 24 hours. Let's go pick it up. As me and him came out of the store, we switched our bags to our right hands. As we came out of the store, he had a brand new Dodge quad cab, nice pickup, diesel and everything. We saw there was nobody else in the parking lot. There was a car parked directly in front of his, and there was about 4 to 6 guys. I think it was about 6 guys, and they were all. 2 of them were on this side of his truck, and 2 of them were on the other side of his truck, and they were walking around looking at his truck. And me and him used the truck as the pivot point, and I said, "You go left, I'm gonna go right." And they saw us as we started fanning out, and saw us kind of. I had my hand underneath my shirt, and he had his hand at like 3 o'clock, 3 o'clock. And as we were walking, and as soon as they saw us looking at them, situationally aware, and we were pinwheeling around, so if there was something happen, we wouldn't have a crossfire. Guess what they did? They got in their car and they left, because they realized we were not a soft target. That's what I'm trying to say. Don't be a soft target. Be a hard target.
I try to never carry anything in my right hand. Yeah, and just from habit of when I was in law enforcement, keep your gun hand free all the time. My son Noah and I were at Walmart one day. This is right here in town, and we were parked. Walmart parking's notoriously bad, so we were not parked close to the door. We were making our way back, and it was about dusk. And I saw this guy who was like walking around the parking lot, looking in car windows and stuff. And so we kind of changed our course to go around the guy. I wasn't looking to run into him. Well, he changed course and starts following us between cars. And Noah stepped about 4 feet to my left and put his hand on his, and I put my hand on mine, and I said, "Something I can help you with?" And he turned around and beat feet. I think he was fixing to rob us.
It's that situational awareness, man, and I think that's integral. That's an integral part of survival too, is being keyed into your environment. And Nighthawk, William Nighthawk just had a good one. He says, pay attention to birds, because they nest close to water sources. And if you're on horseback and your horse won't drink water, then you shouldn't drink water. Trust your animals.
Always drink with your horse.
Yeah, trust your animals. Sure.
If you got cattle, drink upstream of the cattle, not downstream. You'll thank me.
Yeah. So will your gut. So will your gut.
Misty Haynes says, "Don't ask me for directions or road names, but I guarantee I can be in the middle of the mountains and know what to look for and be able to find a water source just by following the lay of the land." That's a good skill to know. That really is.
And out here in the West, look for cottonwood trees. Cottonwood trees are very water dependent. So if you see a big line of cottonwood trees, chances are, even if it's a dry creek bed, there's water if you dig down far enough.
Yeah, sycamore trees are another good one.
And it is not that difficult to make a filter in an emergency. If you've got a 2-liter bottle, you can make a water filter. All you need is some charcoal, like from a burnt fire. You need some charcoal, need some sand, rocks. Pile all that. Charcoal goes on the bottom. Everything else just kind of gets layered in there because it's going to mix. Sand and rocks will mix. But you pour water on top of that and let it filter down through that sand. That'll get all the particulates out of it, and it hits that charcoal, and that filters out pretty much anything that'll hurt you.
Yep. Some good stuff.
It works. It works as an alternative to just having to drink it straight out of the stream. There are not many places left I would be willing to risk drinking straight out of it, just because of people that have septic systems and water runoff from farming fields where you might get pesticides and God knows what else.
Yeah.
There's a couple of springs I know that I would drink where it comes out of the ground.
Yeah,
that's about it.
My buddy John he goes up in the spring and the summer and the fall up in this mountain range up the Bighorns up northern Wyoming and gets water up there and fills up several 5-gallon jugs. And there's this pipe he said the spring's been there for over 140 years, and they've had to replace the pipe a few times, but it's been actively running, and it's got a little spigot. You go in there and you just turn the spigot on. There's fresh cold water coming out of there. And he said it's the best water you've ever had. So it makes great coffee.
You can go down to Hot Springs, Arkansas, and they've got those mineral springs, and you can take containers down there, fill up as much as you want. They don't even charge you for it.
Oh, that's really freaking cool.
And it's hot mineral water, but you can drink it while it's warm. You can let it cool off. All kinds of nutrients in that mineral water.
It becomes cool mineral water.
Yeah, exactly. I ain't drinking it hot.
Ugh. No, I'm good.
But I can remember a few times when I lived in New Mexico when we were out away from the area, away from town. You get out there in that New Mexico sun, and you'll drink hot water and be thankful for it.
Yeah, be glad you got something wet.
Yeah, I'm right. Casey says, but it's not Matoska coffee. Nope, it's not Joe Matoska coffee.
No. Y'all pardon me. I'll be right back.
If y'all aren't familiar with a lot of these skills, this is not something we can teach you guys in just a couple hours. We can talk about it. We can bring things to your attention, but it's all really a mindset. If you go into this thinking I'm going to die, you're probably going to create a self-fulfilling prophecy. But if you go in with the mindset of I'm going to get through this, no matter what, I'm coming through this, you can do well. There are a number of books you can buy. Robbie's got one called The Old Ways. It teaches you a lot of the old pioneer stuff. There's a great one, and it comes in both a little bitty pocket version and a big shelf top version, and I have both. It's called the SAS Survival Guide. And get one of those little pocket ones, put it in your pack. It doesn't weigh but half a pound, maybe not even that. That book will save your life. It teaches you plants that are edible. It teaches you how to make snares. And this is where we're talking more long-term survival. If you've got to eat, and everybody does, once you run out of power bars, you're going to be looking for a way to eat. And to make snares will catch you small game and squirrels and rabbits are very tasty. I've had both many times in my life. You get hungry enough, you'll eat a possum. I don't recommend it, but you get hungry enough, you'll eat just about anything. But long-term survival is a whole different mindset than surviving just for the now. What we've gone over tonight, what we've talked about tonight is just, let's say power goes out in an emergency. We have an earthquake, and it just kills your power grid. This will get you through to get to a place where you can get shelter. Something bad, there's a lockdown or something, God forbid, some sort of explosion, and the police are telling everybody to get home. These little everyday carry bags will get you home. Bugout bags are a whole different animal, and I would carry much different things. But I grab my Bugout bag. I'm not dropping the EDC bag. EDC bag is still valuable, but you want to pack that bag so it complements your go bag. You don't need to carry 12 of something, but it is good to carry backups. I always carry multiple med kits. I carry extra ammunition. I carry more than one e-tool. I carry a couple of ways to filter water. And most of this stuff is really lightweight, like life straws weigh next to nothing. Get you a couple of space blankets. You can buy a 6-pack of space blankets off Amazon for like $4. Space blankets, they're big enough to wrap around you. They're basically just a sheet of Mylar, and you would be amazed how warm one of those will keep you in a bad situation. But there are a lot of things you can do in the right mindset if things get bad, that you can get yourself home or get yourself out of the situation. There's a quote I like. It's by George Orwell. It said, "People sleep safely in their beds at night because rough men stand ready to do violence on your behalf." You may not be one of those people that's prepared to do violence, to visit violence upon those who would bring it to you, but that doesn't mean you have to be a victim. Being aware of your surroundings, having a plan, having emergency supplies, all of that, and along with a few other things, especially if you've got something for defense, all of that can help keep you safe and get you through some bad situations. Like I said, back in '87, when I lived in Lebanon, I wasn't quite 17 yet. It was the winter, like January of '87. We had an ice storm hit, and it knocked out most of the power in Southwest Missouri for 2 weeks. It was just over 2 weeks before we got our power back. But when my dad, like I said, my dad grew up in the Great Depression, and we had almost 20 of those old kerosene hurricane lamps, because my mother collected them when I was a kid. We just, filled them with kerosene, lit the wicks, and went on our way, because we burned wood. We didn't have central air. It was dead of winter anyway. But we just shrugged when the power went out. We lit the kerosene lamps and added more wood to the fire because we burnt wood for heat. My dad went out to the shop behind the house, and he got a couple of slabs of plywood. He made a little frame, and he nailed the plywood over it and took everything out of the fridge that was going to go bad and set that thing on the porch and put everything in there and padlocked it so nobody could get into it. But all of our food kept, because Dad said, "Hey, it's below freezing out there anyway. It's not going to go bad out there." So there's always ways to survive in a situation. Just sometimes you've got to not only dig for it, but you've got to be willing to do it. It's not an easy game, but it's, when it comes to saving your life or the lives of the people you care about, it is vital that you know at least the rudimentary skills of what to do when things get bad. Boys, you got anything else else to add to that?
I think that's the big one. One thing I would add to it is, most people, when they talk about their Bugout bag, it always seems to involve, especially the prepper crowd, always seems to involve a large amount of ammunition. Remember, ammo is freaking heavy. You're going to be limited to how much you can carry with you. You are not going to be walking around with 5,000 rounds for your AR. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, if we had 5,000 rounds of AR, and that's just 223, 5.56, it would take the three of us to carry it. Yeah. And that would be all we'd be carrying. That's heavy. Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Oh no, that was just what I always want to try to mention, that because people who aren't real familiar with firearms especially don't realize how freaking heavy ammo is. It's got weight to it, and you're going to be limited to how much of that you can carry. There's a reason that an infantry loadout is 7 magazines, because a full-grown 200-pound man can't carry much more than that and be effective.
It is heavy.
Misty Haynes says people need to learn how to make basic traps and carry a string or paracord instead of a lot of ammo. Yeah, hatchets and knives don't require ammo. They don't need to be reloaded. Keep a good knife or a good camp axe. You keep them to hand.
And something to sharpen it with.
Yeah, and something to sharpen with. I always keep a stone handy. No, we talk about scallywag all the time, but the reason we do that is because these are high quality weapons for multiple different purposes. Like Steve discovered, his knife was not meant for prying. However, if that had been one of the others, like the Jolly Roger wouldn't have batted an eye. That's harder steel, and it's made as a daily use, hacking through crap, everyday, beat it up knife. But the which one was that you did that with, Steve?
That was the privateer.
Privateer. The privateer is a harder steel, but it's brittle, and it holds an edge like a scalpel. But you can't do the things you do with your old case knife or your old buck knife. You can't do the things with that because that is a knife for a different purpose. It's like somebody asked me if I've got a pocket knife. I'm like, what are you cutting? They're like, well, what do you mean? Do you have a pocket knife? I'm like, no, it matters. What are you cutting? I'm not going to give you something with a brittle blade to cut something you're going to damage it. If you're just generally cutting open a box or something, I'll probably give you my Jolly Roger.
Right. Well, and I don't know how many people have read the book or have even heard of it, but there's a book out there by a guy named William Forston. And it's pretty sobering to even think about when you read this book. It's kind of scary. It's called 1 Second After. And it's really, there's a series. And I think it's 3, or is it 3 or 4?
It's 4 now. The 4th book just came out.
Okay. Yeah. It's a very, if you read the first book, it'll hook you, but it's very sobering as far as reading it. But definitely something to think about as far as long term. I mean, short term is one thing, but you're talking long term. Just like a medical scenario, you've got your immediate aid you've got to accomplish right now, but then you've got to look at prolonged field care or the nursing care that's going to come after that. So definitely get into that kind of stuff, and it's almost like a research. It's almost like a resource, I should say, type of book.
No, something we didn't cover. Light sources, flashlights.
Mm-hmm.
There are lots of flashlights out there run the gamut of prices. I've had expensive flashlights and I've had cheap flashlights, but I'll tell you, one flashlight that has never failed me when I needed it was my old mil-spec angle head. It's got a clip on it. You can clip it to a pack. You can put red, green, or blue lenses in it. This thing is probably one of the most versatile flashlights I've ever bought.
You could even get a good high output LED bulb for that thing now that replaces the old incandescent bulb.
I've got one.
Yeah, it's a game changer. It's a game changer with that thing, man. It really is.
Yeah, I put LED bulbs in all my flashlights now.
Yeah.
Look and see if we missed anything. Hey, one of you guys post that author and the name of those books in the chat so folks are interested in getting those.
Okay. Let me see here.
And folks, I think we had a great conversation tonight. We covered a lot of great material. But again, this is for an EDC bag that you just keep on hand for an absolute, oh my God, something hit the fan and I need to get home or get to X place. Something that'll get you through the immediate emergency. A bug out bag is something else entirely. And again, the bug out bag, mine is set up to work in complement to my EDC bag, because I'm not going to just drop the EDC and grab the bug out bag. I'm going to keep that EDC. But they should complement each other, but they have totally different tasks. Bug out bags are to give you the time to get away. They need to have enough supplies in them to get you to your bug out point, or a place that that's a place of safety. Be that an emergency shelter across town when transportation's down, or be that a friend that lives out in the sticks that you can get to their place and they can give you a place to sleep. Wherever your point B is, that's what your go bag needs to be built for. What obstacles are you going to face along the way? And this is where we start getting into more long-term survival and less short-term. Bug out bags are whereas EDC is probably good for the day. Bug out bags are got to be good for a week, sometimes a month, depending on what you've got, depending on the situation. But it's to get you to the next step, which would be long-term survival. So I guess bug out bag really isn't long-term; it's more intermediate. It's the EDC bag gets you home. The bug out bag gets you to the safe space, wherever that is, whatever that's for. You've got to plan accordingly. So we'll do a part 2 to this at some point down the road where we dig into the bug out bag, because that's where things get a little more critical, because short-term surviving the day is a different animal than surviving 7, 10, 20 days, however long you're going to be out there. And a bug out bag, it's got to be designed to keep you safe and keep you fed, keep you warm, but it's designed for one person. So if there's 4 people in your family, everybody's going to need a pack, and each one will be customized to what they need. Like mine, I've got a week's supply of all the medications I take in a Ziploc bag, separated by day, obviously, but I've got them zipped up where they won't get wet and stuck in my bug out bag. So if I've got a week's worth of meds right there if I need them, because I take meds every. I'm hoping that as my health is continuing to improve, that I won't have to take as many. But that's one thing you've got to bear in mind if you're going to be away from the civilization for an extended period of time. If you take meds, or if somebody that's got asthma, do you have a backup inhaler?
That's right.
Have the meds you need on hand and enough to get you where you need to go. But again, that's when we start. We'll do the bug out bag at another point. We just really wanted to cover the essentials, the EDC stuff, the stuff that'll get you home. Because as Doc is fond of saying, and I love him to death for this, Dark Angel kits are by far and away. I can't praise them enough. But he's a big saying is saying the time chooses you. You just don't know. Solar flares can cause an EMP effect, and we could lose our electronics for God knows how long, which would mean we would probably lose the power grid. And that's just a natural phenomenon. I live in Southwest Missouri, and we're not far from New Madrid. And the last time the New Madrid fault went off big, it knocked dinner plates off of walls of houses in Denver, Colorado. The Mississippi River rolled backwards for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That's the fault line.
The original town of New Madrid is now in the middle of the river, because when it resumed course, it picked different banks. So,
there's a town at the bottom of Table Rock Lake.
Oh, the one that was covered with the Corps of Engineers made the lake.
Mm-hmm. But that's the kind of power that is right there on the New Madrid fault line. If you guys live anywhere near a fault line, if you live anywhere out on the left coast, then you might want to bear that in mind, because a major earthquake could shut down all emergency services and power and water for God knows how long until they can restore it. Especially if it shifts enough that it breaks water mains, you might be out without water for weeks, maybe even longer. So knowing these basic ideas on how to filter water, how to prepare food, how to store food, are going to become critical, especially if we have one of these natural emergencies.
Amen.
And if it happens to get you prepped for the zombie apocalypse, then so much the better.
Yeah, and I'm particularly worried about things like solar flares. Our electrical system is very fragile, and there's very little redundancy built into it. And a good solar flare could send us back to the Stone Age.
Yeah,
right.
It easily could. There are tons of great videos on YouTube that you can look up, like on how to make pemmican. Cowboy Kent Rollins has a great one on how to make pemmican. There are others that will show you what they call pioneer bread or hillbilly bread. You can make bread with just a handful of ingredients, and be, just like the pioneers made it. I mean, we made bread and fed our families with it for generations before anybody opened the first bakery. So people have always been able to have these skills, but I think it's time in our society that we relearn a lot of these self-sufficient skills.
Amen. I agree with
Because
that.
you'll never know when you're going to need them. As Doc says, time chooses you.
Yep. All right.
Boys, I think we had a fantastic 2 hours, and we did sidetrack a little bit, but we didn't stop for any of the affiliates.
No.
And tonight, I think this was important that we didn't.
Some good information, man. It's good information for folks to have, for sure.
But Miss Lene, if you're still listening, if you want to throw up the links to all the affiliates, we'll go ahead and throw those up here at the end of the show. Check out Dark Angel Medical for all your medical kit needs. Best kits in the business. Use discount code Cryptid20 for 20% off your order. They're HSA FSA certified, and you can make payments through Sezzle. So they are damn good kits. And remember, if you bought a $20 med kit and you're expecting it to save your life and it doesn't, there's a reason it was only $20.
And we need the help, folks. I'm not going to lie to you. It's been very bad, and I know everybody's worried about money nowadays. I am too. So y'all, if any support, any little bit of help y'all can give us would be very, very much appreciated, for sure.
And check out Brock Blades. Ken's been in the chat tonight, busting Robbie's chops every chance he can get. Check out BrockBlades.com. He makes custom blades that are amazing knives. They are fantastic, custom made, handmade. Everyone in the shop behind Ken's house. So check out BrockBlades.com. Check out what he has available, and if you want a custom order, reach out to him and he'll make one to order. And use discount code. What was it, Cryptid10? Cryptid10 for 10% off the order. And check out Scallywag Tactical, best blades I carry. Because in a survival situation, a blade is worth its weight in gold. One of the best tools ever made by man was the knife, because it is such a versatile tool and can be used for so many things. So get you a good knife, and don't be afraid to spend a little bit on a knife, because the last thing you want is that $5 Walmart pocket knife breaking the first time you need it.
No.
And use discount code DARoberts10 for 10% off your entire order with Scallywag. Boys, I think that pretty much hit the highlights for the affiliates. I want to thank each and every one of the affiliates, because we got an awesome group, and we're proud to support our veteran-owned and first responder-owned businesses, and that's why we chose each and every one of them. Want to close things out with let everybody know just how close Heart of Iron is to finishing. I sent out to the alpha readers last night the most recent update. The big fight, what most people refer to as the final fight of the book, has happened, and now we're doing the wind down. So I'm hoping to have this book done this week. I got to get a hold of my cover guy, get the cover rolling, and see what we can do about that. And hopefully I'll have that book out for you guys in the next week and a half, 2 weeks. Again, it's called Heart of Iron, and I think you guys are really going to like it.
And this is the first in a whole new series, is it not?
Sure is. It'll be the first in the fantasy series. But you will see some familiar faces.
Yep, y'all are going to love it. Love it, love it, love it.
It's loaded with bits of humor, a lot of action. Some interesting new characters and some familiar ones as well, and you'll
maybe an Easter egg or two.
Maybe an Easter egg or two. A lot of good jokes, and what people have been asking about Gray Eagle and Sarah and Jason coming home. Well, you're going to get your wish, boys. It's after 10. You guys, anything else you guys can think of we need to throw in there?
I cannot.
Mm-mm.
Well, this is this gets to the point when we start winding things down. I always like to bring up the 22 a day foundation. We lose 22 veterans a day to suicide, and that is 22 too many. If you look at the Officer Down Memorial page, you'll see the toll that's taken on our men and women in uniform as law enforcement, and it's just as bad. The media doesn't report on this, and I don't know why. I guess it doesn't fit certain people's agendas, but we'll not get into that. But there's a very real danger involved in those professions. The men and women that have served in uniform have seen and experienced things that no human should really ever have to. Yet they still have to come home and bear that memory for the rest of their lives. And it's horrible that our VA isn't doing enough for these veterans. It's just inhuman to me.
As somebody who works in healthcare, I can say the VA is a piece of shit. I apologize, but
you're 100% right. I mean, if we're
the
going
stories
to
I've heard.
if you're going to send these men and women to war, then we better be willing to put them back together when they come home. Same with our law enforcement. We're sending those men and women out to deal with some of the worst our society has to offer, and they do it every day. And yeah, we hear about anytime something bad happens with a cop, the media is sure to put that front and center, but they don't say a damn word about the more than a million men and women in uniform who do their job flawlessly and do it well every day. Robbie is one of those people that do that job every day, and I'm damn proud that he's my brother. Same thing with the men and women in the medical field. They get spat on, they get punched, they get assaulted. The people treat them like animals. I mean, it is horrible how the conditions that these men and women have to work in. You have no idea. If you've never worked an ER on a busy Saturday night, you have not seen what humanity is capable of doing to each other. It's absolutely terrible. And I tried to do my best when I was a security officer to protect them from that when I could. Same thing with our brothers we jokingly call the second responders, firefighters. They're going into burning homes. They're seeing horrendous things. EMTs, corrections, security even are all dealing with things that 20, 30 years ago we never would have even thought would happen. We hear in the news all the time, people leaving small children in a car. And then the atrocities get even worse from there. But these men and women in uniform, they have to deal with that stuff, and sometimes it's not so easy to shut that out of your memory. PTSD is a real thing, and we should never underestimate the sacrifice these men and women make for us every day. And my hat is absolutely off to them. I can't thank them enough for keeping us safe and keeping us free. And reach out to your friends and family who are veterans or first responders in any capacity. Let them know you're thinking about them. Let them know you care. Let them know they're not fighting these demons alone. Because we should never, ever let the hard days win. We all have faced them, and some folks don't feel like they've got anybody to reach out. I know I can reach out to any of these three idiots any time of the day or night. And I've woken Doc out of a sound sleep before, like, hey, and I got something I need to talk to you about. And Doc has never given a single shit that I've woke him up on more than one time. So I've heard Angie in the background. Who's calling? I've heard her in the background. What's the idiot's calling at 2:00 in the morning? But it's just like that with us. We're family by circumstance, not necessarily by blood. They're my brothers, and I would do anything for them. And folks, if you don't have somebody like that, and you don't have anybody you feel like you can talk to, reach out to one of us. I'd rather hear your story than read your obituary, and I mean that. So, folks, just remember, everyone's fighting a battle that you know nothing about. Especially the men and women in uniform who have seen things that I wouldn't even want to describe to you. And that's just what I experienced in my career. I know people have had it far worse than I ever did. All things considered, I had a pretty good career. So just keep those folks in your prayers and show them some love and let them know you're thinking about them, because 22 a day is 22 too many. and let's get that down to 0, please. Let's everybody, that's something we can all agree on, that we should make a difference in the lives of the men and women that are stretched thin and at the end of their rope because they've seen and experienced things that their mind doesn't want to do, can't deal with.
Amen.
Just be there for them, and that is from the bottom of my heart. Please just be there. Reach out to those folks. Let them know you care. But here we are, at the end of the night, and it's something we've been doing for a while, and I'm pretty proud of it. I'm pretty proud that we started doing this, and we've been ending the show with a toast, and it's from an old Irish drinking song called "The Parting Glass," and it's played all over the world, all in Irish pubs everywhere, because there's Irish pubs. You can go anywhere and find an Irish pub. But that song's played at the end of the night in Irish pubs all over the world. And it's talking about lifting a glass and saying goodnight and everybody going their separate ways. And that's what most people take it. But if you much like most Irish folk music, if you listen to the words, it's talking about a lot more than that. It's about raising a glass and lifting a glass and saying goodbye to the ones we've lost along the way. And with the anniversary of 9/11 just passed, we toasted on 9/11 and brought it up, and I'm going to bring it up again. Let's be the people we were on 9/12. We were a united country then. Nothing was going to separate us as being Americans, and we need to get back to that. While I hope to never have another 9/11 in my lifetime or ever. I would love to see us be 9/12 America again. So with that in mind, we're going to toast out with a toast from the parting glass. And the toast says, "But since it fell into my lot, that I should rise and you should not, I'll gently rise and softly call. Good night and joy be to you all." Good night, everyone.
Gotcha.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on Ex Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.